In this video, I'm gonna be going over advanced SEO tactics and strategies that could possibly 10x your site's organic traffic this year. First concept I wanna cover is programmatic SEO. And to show you what this is and what it's all about, I just wanted to pull up a quick article from Search Engine Land that defined it really well. And basically, it's creating high quality pages at scale using a template and a database. And when I'm talking about creating pages, it's like millions of pages. And before you start thinking, oh man, that's spam, there's a difference between creating thousands of pages that have like one thing different about them and you're trying to rank like that versus creating a database of very rich content using data sources like data.gov, programmable web, like these publicly available data sets that you can merge into a template. And a couple examples that I want to show you out in the wild. So Zapier is one that is doing programmatic SEO, and I went into their apps directory, which is where all their programmatic content lives, and you can see for yourself what's going on in here. But they have 65,000 pages spanning all of these different types of articles. And if you Google something like integrate active campaign with Thrivecart, just two random web apps that I'm familiar with, Zapier ranks for that. And if you were to click it, you can see how this is a template that where, basically whoever made this template swaps out these two variables and it it just allows for lots of page creation very quickly. And if you scroll through, it's again, very simple template, and a lot of it's driven through their app. Like their technology is like populating a lot of the content. So it really works very well for them. Another example I want to show you is Expedia. So Expedia here, whereas Zapier is doing like app versus app type approach, Expedia is doing more like airfare to airfare, like city to city type approach. And I mean, this is just one example. And you can get a sense of how many pages just by, again, taking this and dropping it into Ahrefs and just seeing how many pages are in this directory. And if we go to pages, you can, again, see how many, 150,000 pages. Again, all programmatically created. There's no way you can have one person create all of these pages, but they're all out there and they generate a ton of traffic, and they rank on all these long tail terms. Another example that I want to show you is a website called Home Advisor. Now, you might have heard of Home Advisor. They do lead gen for local businesses, and there's a lot of potential projects and things that people can search. And if you go to their website and you go to top pages, you can see very quickly that they have a programmatic SEO strategy at play. And they have 500,000 pages. And you can see T-Lock, Los Angeles. So this is like one of their permutations. And they're using their database of providers to power all of this content. So you can see how they can deploy a programmatic SEO strategy without risking their domain's reputation. Now, there are tools out there like this one here, Page Factory, that can allow people to create their own programmatic strategies or deploy their own programmatic content using G-Sheets and a template. I looked into this. Honestly, it's okay. I don't think that deploying a programmatic site using this tool will be that valuable. Like, you really need to ingest data, and each article needs to be something that doesn't already exist. If all you're doing is swapping out words, I honestly don't think it's gonna be a great SEO strategy for you, but it's just an interesting tool that does exist. It may be worth experimenting. I could be wrong. But it does look like most of the integration this tool does is with WordPress. So if you don't have a WordPress site, you can't use it, but you can see exactly how a tool like this can help facilitate a programmatic SEO strategy. 2 seconds on programmatic SEO. Again, you've seen a couple of examples of it deployed in the wild. You've seen a tool, Page Factory, that can actually do programmatic SEO for your website. Be careful with this strategy. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. Yes, you can. Again, it's high risk, high reward. You can produce millions of pages very quickly, but you're going to have indexing challenges. You're going to be potentially at risk for Google duplicate content issues. You're going to be just putting your site at risk. So tread carefully. If you do think your website or your business can deploy a programmatic SEO strategy because you have some kind of unique data set, then definitely go for it. It can be a boon for you and grow traffic very quickly. So the next thing I want to cover is advanced schema markup, right? So I have an example here I want to show you from Bankrate. And if you're not familiar with schema, it's just code that's on the page that is helping Google understand the content in a better way. So what I'm going to do is actually just take this article and dump it in a tool called validator.schema.org. And what it's going to do is going to find the schema on the page. And if you just open up one of these things, you can see that it's seeing the code. And if I just click one of them, it'll be like, oh, it's right there. and it'll just keep highlighting where it is on the page. Now, this is important because from an EAT perspective, Google may be looking at this as a signal for how, if there is expertise, authority on the page, right? So EEAT, experience, expertise, authority, trust. Doing schema like this can help you with ranking. And now the advanced part of this, schema in itself is not that advanced. It's been around for a while, but the advanced bit is when you mark up the authorship in such a way that it's clear to Google there is experience from these authors. So if I scroll to the authors here, so we got author, creator, and editor, which the people of these people are on the page right here. Now, one thing I'll bring your attention to is this same as link. So Bankrate is actually referring to a page on their site where the author's profile exists. So if I actually go to that page, you can see that it's their author page, which has its own content. It has a picture of the bio. It's got expertise, education, highlights, experience. It's got it all here. Now, if I actually put this in the schema tool, it's going to find its own set of schema, and I guarantee you it's going to be pointing to the social handles of this guy. It's marked up with profile page, so that's one thing. It's helping Google understand, oh, this is a page about this author. And you can see that, the name, his experience, job title, image. Again, all of these things are helping just enrich this author on this page. Now, one thing I don't see that I would like to see is some same as links pointing to his social handles. I don't see that. I think I would have liked to see that, and that may be something they can do better. But this is an example of advanced SEO schema, and setting this up can be done with a tool called Rank Math for WordPress. And you can do this through like editors for Wix and Squarespace if you don't have a WordPress site. There are ways you can add this schema to the page using some back-end functionality. But I just wanted to show you some advanced implementation. And now I want to talk about advanced tools. So we talked about programmatic SEO, we talked about advanced schema implementation. Now let's talk tools. So tools, everyone loves a good tool, right? There's three that really come to mind as far as like advanced. And the first one I want to talk about is Cora SEO. So let me jump into my screen here and show you what I got cooking. So Cora SEO is not a relatively new tool. The guy who runs it, his name's Ted. He's been running this tool for a while. He has a YouTube channel called SEO Fight Club. It's definitely, I would argue, more advanced. It's definitely dry, not the most engaging content, but they talk about really interesting SEO things and things they're seeing in the wild. And this is Ted's tool. It costs $250 per month, but what it does is it kind of goes above and beyond any other on-page SEO tool out there, and it integrates off-page, on-page, EAT, all the things. And you can see an example report here, a tuning report. It'll literally tell you, hey, you need more words, you need more sentences. And what it's doing is it's looking for correlations, and this tool spit out what it thinks is correlating. So be like, oh yeah, the top 10 pages in the SERPs for a given keyword have 600 more on average words than you do. So you should add more words. So it's looking for those correlations. And some of them are really like obvious, like word count, but some of them are not necessarily as obvious, like has JSON LD person. It says for me to do that. If this was my report, it's looking for leading keywords in the H1, H2, and H3. Maybe your article doesn't have that. So it's looking for email addresses on the page, things like that. You can see here just all the different examples of what it has and just more reports that come out of it. So really cool, really interesting tool that I think you should check out. Now, the next tool I want to talk about is a tool called Hexawatch. Now, I love this tool. It's one of my favorites right now. And what it does is it looks for changes on the page. And there's a lot of changes that it could be monitoring. For example, visual, HTML, keyword. I'm usually over here in the visual monitoring, and you can see sort of an example here, but let me actually just show you an actual example. This is a page targeting the term best homeowners insurance companies for January 23, and it's Bankrate. Now you probably are catching on to a trend here. I like monitoring Bankrate because Bankrate is run by a company called Red Ventures, and they have a lot of people working on this website. So I know that any change they're making to this website has gone through lots of decisioning, lots of analysis, lots of strategy. So it's always good to find those, what I'm calling models, and use them and basically just keep track of what they're doing. And in this case, I'm looking for CRO changes and SEO changes. I'm looking for, hey, are they tweaking their page, like changing the H1s, the H2s? That's like an SEO thing. Or are they changing the widgets on the page? Are they trying to increase the value of each visitor that visits? Now you can see that this page that I pulled up, this is the previous version. This is the current version. So you can see scrolling down, it's relatively, mostly textual, not a lot of widgets here. And if you go to the new version, If you scroll to the top here, you can see that they've added a table and they've added new widgets that drive people to these brands. So this is how they're making money. This is how Bankrate makes money at the end of the day. They have this calculator, they have this table, and they have these, all of these things are trying to monetize this page more. So for me, the action here is like, oh man, maybe I should like build my own version of this table on my articles because they're doing it. Then there's an assumption that if they're doing it, it must be working because they have a bigger organization to test these sorts of things. So I love this. Another example page is one from this company called Energy Stage. And you can see here, same thing. I can go back and forth to see where is this change on the page. Now, some of these changes are more subtle. You know, some of them are only gonna be like 5% different. Some of them are like 30% different. I'm usually looking for like 10% more or better. The tool will be looking or have a threshold set. So it's like, it's always looking for changes. If the tool sees, oh, there's only a 2% change here, probably a couple words on the page, we don't care about that. If it's like a 5% change, okay, that's kind of significant. If it's like a 30% change, that's like the template has changed basically. And I wanna keep an eye on that because like it's gonna inform me on what their strategy is. So I always wanna keep an eye on that. Anyway, Energy Stage here, you can see if I scroll down, okay, where is their change? I'll keep doing this until I find it. And you can see here, here's the previous. So this is previous and this is current. So they actually removed their testimonials, which is interesting. So what I might do, the takeaway for me here is like, I'll keep an eye on the rankings for this page. If I see them go down, that might be something to take away. Be like, oh, I should keep people on the page. Or if they go up, maybe there's something to be taken away there as well. So you just don't know. It's just like, hey, oh, that's an interesting takeaway. It just seems like they're not including these as much. It could be a CRO test to see, oh, like, let's not focus on people's faces and like testimonials as much. Instead, let's add or have more focus on these internal links because it looks like by removing that pulls it up. That could actually help them from an SEO perspective. The next tool I want to cover isn't actually a tool. It's a extension for Google Chrome, and it's called AI PRM for SEO. And basically it extends the functionality of ChatGPT. So when you install this and go to ChatGPT, you can see that it adds a bunch of these new boxes. And what it is a bunch of public prompts people have been using for SEO to generate good responses from ChatGPT. Now, the two that I like is this topical authority one. If you go to the previous page, the keyword strategy one. Both of those I've used the most and I found that they work the best. And I ran the keyword strategy one with the word diamond cuts. So again, my old site, Learning Jewelry, if I was gonna use this for that, I wanted to see what it would spit out. And I really like what it spit out because it's exactly what I did for the site. It's basically saying, okay, for this cluster, basically diamond cutting techniques, it's like, okay, target diamond cutting for this keyword cluster. And I might argue that all of these are in the same cluster. So it's a little bit, you gotta kind of, analyze the results, but it's giving me lots of example articles to create that maybe if I wasn't super familiar with jewelry in the first place, it would help guide me. The other one that I like is this topical authority one. So I would do the same thing. And it's basically saying, it's gonna create a table, like it says here, of article ideas that help you build topical authority for something, right? Think of it like pillar content. So in this case, if I did diamond cutting again, and I did English, which is what it wants, it's going to spit out a table of content to create topical authority. So I'll let it run and I'll pick it back up in a second. Okay, you can see what it spit out. And again, how I'm interpreting this from an SEO perspective is like, if I was gonna create the diamond cutting hub of my jewelry site, I would cover the history of diamond cutting. I would cover how to cut a diamond. I would cover diamond cutting tools and equipment, like the overview of that. I would cover diamond cutting terms and glossary. So I would basically, each of these would be articles. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. And then if you come back here, again, similarly, I would think like each of these would be articles. So again, you gotta kind of review the data, see what it comes up with. It does have like some suggested titles and meta descriptions, so interesting outputs. But again, super interesting prompt creating tool for SEO, definitely a bit more advanced. So the next thing I want to talk about is optimizing for user engagement signals on a web page. Now, what I mean by this is basically when a user clicks a search result and they go to your web page and they stay and they like click the table of contents or like scroll and they like read, they click a video, whatever, they're engaging with the page. They're not clicking the back button. They're not going back to the other articles on the 10 blue links that were in the search results. They're staying on your page. They're engaging with it. You want to optimize for this and then maximize it such that Google thinks that and knows that your page is actually serving the user intent properly. So I have some examples of what I mean by this. And again, I'm going back to Bankrate because I think they just do SEO really well and they do a lot of these things at an advanced level. You can see a couple things that I really like. So if you actually hover over the users or the authors and editors, first of all, a lot of information in a tight space with these hover effects. Love that. A user can click to see if they're curious about the authorship. That's really helpful. You got this Bankrate promise situation right here. You can also get more info about that. It's basically saying, hey, here's how we're the best at what we do, and here's why, and how we make money. So they're being transparent. A couple other things that really maximize the engagement signals are this table of contents. So you can see how they grow when you hover, and they all click. It's a click to jump, which is really awesome. So a user can get to where they need to go very quickly. Another thing that I really like is you can see they have this comparison feature, which if you click that, you can instantly see, basically different cards. Now, this is their implementation of this. I pulled up a couple other examples here from Consumer Affairs, who does the exact same thing, but a different implementation. If you scroll to the bottom of their page, if you click compare, you can see that this is their version of that, which I actually like their version more, a table showing exactly what's going on with stars. You can see how the stars break out. Really love that. Now, if I go back, I want to go back here. They also have Bankrate's view. They have card details, like these hover things and hidden pieces of content. It just adds to the engagement of the page so users can get what they need. Google sees that there's engagement. It's maximizing the user indirect signals, right? Also, if I hover over these icons, I don't love that it clips there, but you can see that it also helps with the user engagement, right? If I'm not sure what 60,000 points means, I can hover over that, get some more info. So this is a really great example of this out in the wild. I'm gonna go back to Consumer Affairs really quick. Now, again, they do some things very similarly. They have a table of contents. If I hover, it actually collapses. So I love that because if I hover here and I'm like trying to find what I'm looking for, I'm like, oh, actually, I really want to see all this. I'll keep scrolling. It collapses, but I know it's there. So if I can click that, it'll come back. Obviously, the monetization is front and center here. Really love that. And when I get to this section, there's probably some level of understanding like, hey, the user has not made a decision yet. So if they get this far down the page, maybe they want to compare different providers easier. They also have different different filter sets here, which I love. So if I hit highest rated, it just changes the order for me. So as a user, I'm getting a lot of value out of this. So really great example. The last example I want to share is a Home Advisor page, which basically has a lot of the same features. Like it has click to jump here. It has really great monetization. They're clearly trying to get people to create, become a lead, which I like from a CRO perspective. And I think there's some stuff to learn here from a CRO perspective. They have the back to the top classic functionality here. A lot of themes come with that pre-built in. And then the last thing I like about this page is the feature about, hey, like this is actually written by somebody that has credentials. So really like this, another good example. The next thing I want to cover is something that I like to call intent carving. And by that, I mean basically carving out search intent from bigger keywords to smaller keywords. So for example, if you were to Google best car insurance, that's a very competitive term that you're probably not going to rank for. But if you carve out the intent to something smaller, like best car insurance from BMW M3, you can rank more, you can basically be more competitive on that term because you can create a page that's more optimized for it. Let me show you an example of this in the wild. So if you go to best car insurance, you can see that it's dominated by Forbes, US News, NerdWallet, DR90, 91, 90, impossible to rank for, right? But if you go to best car insurance for BMW M3, you can see InsuraViz somehow is sliding in here at DR29. So this idea of intent carving, basically you find a keyword that's super valuable. Another that comes to mind is like best VPN software. And basically if I just go, best VPN for, you can get all of these sub-intents of a bigger keyword. You can go really far down the list here. iPhone, if I just go iPhone here, for, you just keep going down the list. You can keep carving, going all the way down until it's basically there's no search volume. But the great thing about this is you can make a ton of money doing this and scoot around the big players that really only care about the big keywords. So I am a big advocate for intent carving, and this is exactly how I go about doing that in my business. Another concept I want to cover that's super advanced, but definitely one that works, is the idea of tuck-ins or merging sites. So say you have a cooking site and it's a DR30, you got a bunch of links, but it's kind of small. But then your buddy over here who also has a cooking site is like, you know what? I don't really want to run my cooking site anymore. And say it's like a DR20, it's a little bit smaller than yours. And he's like, I don't really want to run my cooking site anymore. Do you want it? You're like, I don't really want to run 2 sites. I got enough on my plate with 1 site. Instead of running them separately, you can actually combine them and grow the authority of your website really fast. This is a tactic that works really well. And here are a couple of examples out in the wild of it working. So this is a website called Blogging Tips. And if you go to the backlinks, this guy who owns this site, who basically has been buying up all these blogging websites and merging them into Blogging Tips. And you can see that it's working like gangbusters here. They were hovering around, call it 11,000 traffic, and then it exploded. Now it's going to take time, and there is some risk here. Obviously, you have to shell out some money to buy sites to do this, which this guy did. And you also have to merge them together. So some technical issues that you have to get over. But once you do it, it can just blow up your traffic. Last concept I want to cover in this video is using data to make SEO decisions. Now, I want to jump into my screen again here and show you one of my websites, ProPaint Corner, and what the data is telling me here. So if I'm looking at this, usually there's so many different places to get data, by the way. I'm going to focus on Google Analytics just for the purposes of this video. But basically, the first thing that I do for any website is track outbound link clicks, also called takes. I like to call outbound link clicks takes, and a take is any click on an affiliate link. So if somebody goes to my website and they click an affiliate link, that's a take. And what I have is a goal set up, or I have an event firing via Tag Manager that is then mapped to a goal in Google Analytics, which will map to a page. So I can see here that the take rate of this page, automotive paint, spray paint for wheels and rims, is 32%. But the take rate of, say, this page, paint sprayers for ceilings, is only 18%. So what I might do as the next steps here is actually go to that page. Why is the take rate only 18%, whereas I'm seeing 32 on other pages, and look into that further. Obviously, there's so much analysis you can do here. Some other bits of analysis. I'm always looking at average session duration. This goes back to the concept of like increasing on-page time or user engagement. If I can put videos on the page, table of contents, different interactive widgets, my goal is to increase that number. And if I can increase my session duration, my theory is that it's going to maximize the rank potential of the page. That's the idea. I'm also looking at bounce rate. Like obviously you want bounce rate to be lower. 92% is worse than 91%. You want it to be as low as possible, but a high bounce rate is not always bad. You can see here 54%, 42% bounce rate. So this one's clearly working really well. But in this case, you can see 92% bounce rate, 34 second duration. And I mean, it's really just an informational article about Mako paint job cost. It ranks super well. So even though the bounce rate is 92%, it's not that bad. A couple other things I'll call out here. Pages per session. I don't really focus too much on that. Obviously sessions is all comes from Google. So just pretty much majorly what I'm focused on is take rate, session duration, and bounce rate. Based on these things, I'm going to change my SEO strategy and add video widgets, add different things to maximize the user engagement on the page. Some other things you might want to consider doing is tracking scroll depth. I do this for other websites I manage, not the specific one, but you can create an event that'll fire depending on how much percentage down somebody gets on your page, which can indicate user engagement. That's another thing. You can also do heat maps. Heat maps are really great. Hotjar is the one that I use and have used before. That's really great. Where are people interacting? Where are their mouse go? Where's their mouse going? Where are they getting held up? Super helpful and can help you make decisions from an SEO perspective and a CRO perspective. And that's all I got in today's video. If you like this kind of content, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.